There's a chance to promote the book,
Yeah,
bring it along.
there is definitely a chance. First, let me just introduce our lovely guest, Dr. Michael Thoma.
Well, yeah, I'm the chair of the School of Motion Picture Arts at the Bosa Center, Capilano University. Now I teach world cinema and I teach the fourth year capstone course, which is the visual theory and practice.
One of the reasons we thought you'd be a great fit to sort of interview for the existential issue is your kind of connection to philosophy and what you bring to the film program, which in a lot of ways is a very technical, hands-on program.
You know, the joke that we have is, it's how to make a film, now why. But it's more than that. I think when you go out in the world, there's no guarantees of being landing in Hollywood and being a writer, director. But on the other hand, we have students in all sorts of fields. But I think philosophy is, I think it's something that everybody ideally would be able to study because I think, for your quality of life. And I think it's important.
Could you speak to like the importance of, sort of a more rigorous type course in that field?
Yeah, well, part of it is also we've talked about this, the difference between analytic and continental philosophy. So analytic is more driven on where you're trying to get an answer. And continental philosophy is driven on culture and the arts. And so the version that we're taking is culture and the arts. And as I said, you don't find an answer. You hold something up and you look at it and you go, why do we consider this a truth? Or why do we consider this an answer? And then you look at it and you analyze it and you talk about it and you sort of ration it in a way. You go, well, there's multiple truths here. And then that's way, this is where you look at context. And then for a filmmaker, I think this is crucial. And then I also think it serves you as a human being. So you don't go to quick judgments of things. You go, well, wait a sec.
Yeah.
What are all the angles? And right now we're in a turbulent world.
That's true.
And it's easy to jump to conclusions or judgments. But actually, when you start looking at the context of things, it's way more complicated.
Yeah.
And multifaceted.
So what to you is existentialism actually, when you take away all the...
Well, the term, when you hear it used now, usually means your existence is being threatened. So existentialism means something is threatening who you are. But no, we talked about it. You start with Kierkegaard, and then you can go to the French existentialists, and it's basically that you're responsible for your own life. If you are relying on something, a Sartre would say, or de Beauvoir, your job or your identity, I'm a filmmaker. And then that becomes a kind of identity crutch. Again, I think with continental philosophy, part of it is it's existential in that it helps you think about things in terms of context. So what am I doing with my life? Where am I going? Why am I making this film? What do I want to do? What do I want to make? What do I want to say?
Is there any sort of existential media that you can think of and name as being sort of the pinnacle or influential, like books or movies or anything?
I always think of The Road, Cormac McCarthy, for instance, and I just find it so poetic.
Yeah. And
especially the opening pages. And I remember, for me, it's connected to just personal experience. I was in Amsterdam, and I'd done a conference in Maastricht. And on the way back, I thought, okay, I spend a few days in Amsterdam and see the city and everything. And it was absolutely torrential downpour, nonstop buckets of rain. And I found this little English bookstore. And there's a copy of The Road. And I went, well, I've always wanted to read this book. And I was sitting in a little cafe in Amsterdam. And I just went, this feels existential, in that I have to think about, why am I here? What am I doing? How did I get to read The Road in this cafe in a rainstorm in Amsterdam?
Beyond the school, I know recently, I think you have it with you, you published your book, The Aesthetic of the Aesthetic. Maybe
Never.
could you go into a bit about?
If there's a chance to promote the book,
Yeah,
bring it along.
there is definitely a chance. Maybe could you talk a bit about sort of what went into writing that and sort of how that came about?
Yeah, well, it was based on the dissertation, but it, what you're just questioning me about, the first sentence
Mm,
is who's going to save us from ourselves.
yeah.
So that's existentialist in your term right away. Adorno said he is devoting all his energy to challenge constitutive subjectivity. And I thought, why would he be devoting all his energy to that? I mean, it doesn't sound radically horrible or anything like that, but it's basically how we as a subject constitute the world.
Hmm.
How do we see the world? And he felt that we, in many ways, were wrong. This goes part to that idea where he talks about why does it seem like we're heading further into more of a barbaric world, and particularly for him after the Holocaust. And so, why are we heading that way? And for a while there, they were talking about the end of history, and that we were going into a world of liberal democracy and everything would be better. But look at how it's turned,
Yeah.
in a very short time. I think a lot of people are realizing that culture is kind of upstream. It filters down into the world, into the way we see things. This is where, as we've talked about in world cinema, how important film is to all these governments and politics, because it affects the way we see things. And this was Walter Benjamin who said, art can be political.
Hmm.
It can be critique, it can talk about things, but when art becomes politicized, that's different,
Yeah.
because that means the politics is using the art to manipulate us. And then we talked about that in terms of cultural hegemony, for instance.
Yeah. Young people now are like the most unhappy that
Yeah.
they've ever been. I mean, it's hard to not just draw a parallel to things like the internet and social media, but I think it does, as played out as it is, but it definitely does play like a large factor in that. But I guess what sort of other factors do you think there are?
Part of it is the inability to move forward in traditional ways that you thought you would, like say getting a house
Right.
or getting married and having kids, and those are now moving further and further away from possibility, and maybe people going, I'm never going to get a
Mm.
house, or I might never be able to afford to have a family or do any of these kinds of things. And then the option is, well, then I'm not going to do it at all.
I
You
get,
know,
but in a weird way, I guess would that almost make for like maybe a chance of some sort of like cultural revolution where the traditional things that people strive for, maybe people won't see them as important, or you think people are still gonna see them as important and now they're just gonna sort of become depressed that they can't achieve it?
um, I think, I'm not sure, but I think, you might see a trend where it goes back to the traditional,
Uh,
where people start to go, actually, those things were really valuable.
right.
And we opted out of them because we weren't going to be conformist,
Mhm.
say, and we were going to break the mold. But actually, once you break the mold and you get out of it, then you go, well, actually, the traditional things were pretty good. And now we
Right.
kind of miss them.
Yeah.
And, then this is where you start to see, again, young people go, well, what's another option? Maybe move to a small town, or some other option that you go, well, maybe I can go and pursue those traditional things, but I don't have to worry about become a cryptocurrency king to do it.
Yeah. From the bottom. These are all courtesy of Amy and Vlada, so it'll be like they're asking you a question, just
Right.
from the past.
We already asked it.
Okay. Oh wow. All right. Are you where you thought you would be?
Yeah, I think that my view of where I thought I was going to be has evolved.
Yeah.
So, because I was like you, I was in film,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought that's what I would be doing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And but I started out as an actor, but it was interesting. And then when I did the stage when I was in London, so I'm in London, I'm on the stage, I'm in the West End, and I go, well, this is it. This is the sort of height. And then I went back to LA, and they were going to make me a movie star, supposedly. And then I didn't want to do it. I just, one day, it just sort of like a click, just kind of, I don't really have any interest in doing this anymore. And then I changed into full-time writing. And then from the writing, it evolved naturally going to prosa, being where I am now. Maybe not quite where I thought I was going to be, but it's really working with students, um, being able to write and being able to work with your peers is really interesting to me and rewarding. Yeah,
It was really, really
it,
nice of you to do this and talk to us.
yeah, no, I'm happy
Yeah.
to chat. And this is a heavy read. But you know what? Why write this? A couple of people said to me, why write something that's so dense, nobody's going to read it? But in a way, it's got it all there. And then I
Yeah.
start to parse it out now in different pieces and articles and things like that.
Well,
Okay, well, maybe we yacked enough.